Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. Always appreciate you. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr. Welcome to another classic horror movie review. This is my third in my horror classic review series for October 2023, leading up to that big night of Halloween, my personal favorite holiday. And this movie is the first in what would go on to be one of the most popular horror movie franchises in horror history, the original 1988 Child's Play. Directed by Tom Holland, not the actor, the director responsible for the 1985 vampire horror cult classic Fright Night, as well as one of my personal favorite Stephen King adaptations, 1996's Thinner, a very underrated horror movie in my opinion. And Tom Holland also wrote 1980's Psycho 2, as well as 1982's Class of 1984, another cult classic from back in the day. And this movie has one of those premises that to this day is still very strong. The movie is still very holds up as far as the effects. The actors do a great job in this movie. It has one of my favorite movie horror music scores. And this is a plot involving a young boy by the name of Andy Barkley, played here by Vincent, who doesn't know that his doll is possessed by a serial killer. Within the horror genre, there is an entire subgenre of killer doll movies. And the concept of killer dolls is something that I always found very kind of disturbing on its own right. And there have been some good ones in the past. There was one that came out in the late 70s, early 80s that starred Anthony Hopkins called Magic, where he plays a ventriloquist. That's a very good one that I will eventually get to on this channel. And of course, there was 1987's Dolls, which preceded Child's Play by about a year. Later on, we would get the Puppet Master movies that began in 1989. And then, of course, recently we had the Annabelle movies from the Conjuring universe. And most recently, last year's Megan, a movie that I actually quite enjoyed. The idea that a cuddly, friendly, and innocent looking doll that's supposed to be your best buddy, but it's really possessed by some kind of evil and could kill you in your sleep if it wanted to, is something that stems back to childhood fears for a lot of people, especially if you grew up back in the day having your own doll. And back in the 80s, the My Buddy and Kid Sister was pretty popular. As a little kid, I remember having my very own My Buddy. For anyone that was a little kid in the 80s, if you had your own My Buddy or you were at least familiar with the My Buddy, you could probably see a lot of the influence from those dolls in the design of the good guy dolls, the Chucky dolls in these movies. And you can tell they definitely took some inspiration from the Garbage Pail Kids as well as the Cabbage Patch Kids. The movie begins on a cold night with a serial killer known as the Lakeshore Strangler being chased by the cops on the streets of Chicago. He has a buddy getaway driver that bails on him, and as he's on foot, he spots a toy store, shoots the door open, goes inside to evade this one cop that's on his ass, but he gets shot and starts to bleed out walking around the store. Then he spots a whole bunch of those babies back there, gets a hold of one of the boxes, opens it up, and that's when we see this guy start to use voodoo. Dark clouds and lightning begin to form in the sky above as the serial killer uses this ritual of voodoo and dark magic to transfer his soul into this very popular children's toy that eventually makes its way into the hands of a little boy who's having a birthday. Although he's only on screen for a few minutes at the beginning of the movie in physical form, actor Brad Dourif did such an amazing job in the introduction of this film as this serial killer Charles Lee Ray, to the point where throughout the movie, as you see this doll committing these heinous acts, these murderous acts, sometimes you can't help but picture the man that's inside there somewhere. And that's a credit to the acting of this guy. He's a real tremendous talent. If you've seen him in movies like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, there was 1990's The Exorcist 3, a very underrated sequel, and Brad Dourif is brilliant in that movie. He also pops up in the 1998 slasher movie Urban Legends, and not that long ago he was in the Rob Zombie Halloween remakes from '07 and 2009. Anytime you see this guy pop up in anything, he's always a delight and a pleasure to watch just because of how talented and amazing he is. And in this movie, you really see a great display of voice work from Brad Dourif. This is a slasher horror movie with fantasy elements that just wouldn't hold up as well as it does today if it wasn't for all the ingredients coming together so well, like Kevin Yeager and his puppetry and his special effects involving the Chucky doll, which involved all kinds of different methods to bring this doll to life, from animatronics to using little people. And of course, the actors. You got Chris Surandon in the role of Detective Mike Norris, who is very good in this movie. We all know him as Jack Skellington, the voice of Jack Skellington from The Nightmare Before Christmas. And of course, he was in Tom Holland's 1985 classic Fright Night as Jerry the Vampire. Christine Hicks, otherwise known as the mom from Seventh Heaven, who is also in Star Trek 4, does a very good job in this movie as the mother to Andy Barkley. Little Alex Vincent is very good in the role of 6-year-old Andy Barkley. There are moments in this movie where he really surprises me, even on rewatches, especially towards the third act where the shit hits the fan and Chucky's after him and he's in the corner, kind of cowering in the dark, crying, hoping Chucky doesn't get him. It's very convincing and he feels very genuine in those moments, and you do feel bad for him because he's this little kid that's just trying to survive. Something else that really sets this movie apart from other slasher movies of its era is that even though it does have slasher elements here and there, it mostly feels like a thriller. And that's because of the way they kind of use the Chucky doll kind of sparingly, not showing you entirely that it is alive, just kind of hinting at it. And it really adds to the creep factor throughout the first and second act. I also want to quickly mention the music score in this film. The music done by Joseph Renzetti is so damn creepy and at times really puts you on edge and really helps to build the tension in a lot of these scenes. And at the end of the film, when you get to the final closing credits, if you just listen to that music play through the end credits, it really is a chilling theme. The third act of this movie is completely tons of fun and balls to the wall to the point where Chucky just unleashes himself on this little boy and his mother trying to get to them so desperate like. And by that time, you really do feel and care about these characters, which is what makes this entire fantasy horror movie work beautifully. This is a 4-star horror slasher movie in my opinion. Even though I love this movie and I adore this franchise as an adult, I have to admit, back in the day when I was about 4.5 years old, back in 1988, and I saw the trailers for this movie on TV coming to theaters for the first time, I couldn't stand it. I couldn't take watching these trailers. I would run out of the living room. If the remote was close enough, I would grab the remote as fast as I could and change the channel. But if it was too far away, if I couldn't find the remote, I would just run down the hall into my bedroom, shut the door, hide under the covers. I couldn't take it. It was that scary for me. And then later on, when this movie started being shown on TV, of course, every now and then I'd come across it by accident as like the 2 o'clock afternoon movie or the 8 o'clock evening movie, Saturday night or something. For some reason, every time I did come across this movie by accident flipping channels, it was always on the same scene every time. It would be the scene where Karen, the mom of Andy Barkley, is trying to pick up the doll and trying to see if he's going to come to life or not. And every single time, I could not take it. I would look for that remote as fast as I could, or if I couldn't, I just hightail it out of there. I couldn't watch these movies for a few years, at least until I got a little bit older and Child's Play 2 and 3 came around. And since those movies kind of lightened up the tone a bit, and Andy Barkley felt like this kind of accessible hero for a young kid like myself, that was my kind of window, my gateway into horror movies. And from then on, of course, messed me up. Child's Play from 1988 is a very popular horror movie for a lot of reasons. It's tons of fun, it is creepy, for a little kid it is genuinely scary, but it does have little kind of funny moments here and there because every now and then Chucky dolls get to express himself in a humorous way, which the series would lead into more as the films would go on. But this first film is always going to be the creepiest one, at least for me. And 88's Child's Play is a horror classic in my opinion. It is a movie you can find on streaming, but like I'm always saying, you can get yourself a hard copy if you want. I have this little box set that's pretty cool, has all the movies. They're actually continuing this franchise on TV now with the Chucky series that's on Peacock. It's a pretty good little show. I've seen the first season, have yet to see the second or third season. That's the newest current season, I believe. But eventually I will get to it since I am a fan of Child's Play and Chucky. But yeah, Child's Play 1988, bona fide horror classic from the 80s. You can't go wrong. It is October, so check it out if you haven't seen it. Very quick, I just want to give a huge shout out and a big thanks to the Spirit Halloween stores. Had it not been for them and their online services, I would not have been able to purchase this bad boy right here, of which I am truly fond of, who is my new best friend now. And you know the jingle. If you're feeling down and feeling blue, the good guy will always be there for you. 'Cause the good guy is your true blue friend. He's your best friend till the end.